Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Okay, the next thing I'd like to talk about is getting paid. And this is going to affect our small business customers and people who are in business for themselves. And it might seem like a real obvious thing, but it's something I want to spend a little time and talk about because it's really important part of the business. In accounting, we call this area accounts receivable. It's one of those areas that a lot of small businesses don't realize they need to focus on until it's too late. And if you're not watching your customers and client payments closely, you could be headed for costly issues later on. In fact, I would say it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see small business owners making, and that's allowing their customer collections to slide. In fact, I have seen this being one of the major causes of bankruptcy because clients have allowed their customers too much time to pay their bills. And in some cases, they never collect from them at all. So I thought I might take a few moments and just talk a little bit about some of the tips that I recommend in order to avoid any pitfalls in customer accounts receivable and customer collections. And tip one is really quite straightforward, and that is start with a clear customer invoice. And this is really important. It's something you really need to focus on. No matter how responsible and organized your clients might be, if your invoice is difficult for them to understand, it's unclear or simply incorrect, then you're going to delay your ability to get paid. Now, what I've seen in practice is a lot of small business people are great at doing the work and they're great at, finishing up the project, but they're not so great about presenting the bill to the customer and then giving the customer the clear information they need to make a quick and complete payment. So starting off with, you want to invest some time in your invoice and make sure that your invoice explains, the work that was done and explains how that you wish to get paid and what the time frame is that you wish to get paid. I had a client not too long ago say to me, he said, Ralph, I don't understand it. All of my customers are taking a lot longer than I would have expected to pay my bill. And I said, well, let me take a look at your invoice. And on his invoice, he had a thing on there that says net 30 days. And I said, well, the reason you're not getting paid is because you're telling your customers basically you've got 30 days to pay. So they're taking 30 days to pay. So that's something that's just simple. But if you really take a look at your invoice, it's something you can really clear up quickly. The second tip, and this is very important as well, is keep your business organized with an aging report. This is something you should be looking at all the time. Now, what is an aging report? Basically, an aging report is just a list that maintains, easy to read payment status of each of your customers' invoices. And you can look at that real quickly and say, okay, how many people are 30 days out they haven't paid? How many are 45? How many are 60? How many are 90? And this really allows you to focus like a laser beam on the clients who are farthest behind and owe you the most money. And those are the ones you want to spend the most time working with to try to bring some resolution to those. The third tip, and this one would seem pretty simple, is don't let past due accounts slide. And this is very important that you maintain, review, and keep a look on that aging report. And if you see that a customer is slipping into past due status, it's important you act quickly. The more quickly you can act, the more likely you're going to get paid. In fact, some studies have shown that the longer past due a bill is, the less likely you will eventually get paid. And I can tell you from personal experience when I ran a credit union, I mentioned that in one of my other broadcasts, when we would look at our delinquency ratios, we look at the people who owed us money, our examiners would actually, in fact, say to us, look, if this debt is more than 90 days or this debt is more than 120 days, the likelihood of collectability got lesser and lesser as we moved out. In fact, it was, in some cases, I would have an examiner say to me, listen, if this debt hasn't been paid in 3 months, you basically should probably just write it off. And the truth is, as you get farther away from the task or the work that was done, it does make more difficult to collect. So this is something you need to keep an eye on and, collect from them right away. Okay, tip number 4, be strategic and creative in your collections approach. The truth is you can collect in a number of different ways. So you need to decide as a plan what's going to be your methodology and tone. And also don't discount the idea of offering payment plans to get you paid. It could be that your customer's gotten into a cash flow situation. I've had customers in my own practice who have said to me, Ralph, listen, I know I owe you, let's say $300 or $400. could I send you $25 a week? Well, absolutely. I've got no problem with that. And if you're asking them, well, give me $300, give me $300. Well, you may not get that $300, but if you say to them, like, I can remember I had a tax client a few years ago who I want to say he owed me about $500. And I said to him, listen, you send me what you can afford to send me every week and we'll figure it out. And the truth is, this guy would get his paycheck, and every Monday I would have a check in the mail for $25. And kind of funny because he ended up getting paid off, and he said, well, listen, I'm just going to keep sending you the payments so that, when next year tax season comes around, I'll have a credit with you. So if you take off, and work with people, my advice is that most people, and my view is that most people want to pay their bills. So it's not that people don't want to pay you. You just have to work with them and develop a program of how to make sure that you're going to be, the first one that they get paid. And you need to be the one that's saying to them, hey, listen, can we get a payment? Because sometimes it's going to be that person that screams the loudest is the one that's going to get paid. And the final tip here, and this is tip number 5, when all else fails, consider getting help. Now, this is an area you really want to focus a lot of time and due diligence on, and that is making the decision to use a collection agency should not be taken lightly. They can be effective, but the possibility of doing business with that customer in the future is probably going to be significantly limited because, once you've crossed the bridge and you've affected their credit, or you've affected, having a lawyer call them or some collection agency call them, it's probably going to sour the relationship. So you really have to take a hard look and say, is it worth destroying the relationship to get paid? Now, if you're doing all the other things we talked about, hopefully you'll never arrive at this point. And in some cases, you're just going to have to decide, what, this person won't pay me, therefore, I don't have any other choice. But just recognize this, most collection agencies are going to charge you a third to a half of whatever, they're able to collect. Now, at the end of the day, like I talked about before, if you have no other choice and you don't mind souring this relationship, well, then a collection agency might be a good option because it's going to be somebody fresh and something new that's going to come to them. You might show a little bit of imperativeness, if that's a correct word to use. I'm just going to sum up here overall. One of the things that I want to say, is make sure you have some sort of software as well to keep track of this. I've had clients say to me, well, I know this person over here owes me $20 and this person over here $30. In fact, I've got a guy that does some lawn work for me. And I've said to him many times, I said, are you ever going to send me a bill? And he goes, no, I got in my head what I owe you. I think that's a really bad plan. So I would definitely recommend using some sort of software, whether it be QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online or some other tracking system to keep track of who owes you money. And, as I said in these tips, make sure you're keeping an eye on who those people are and don't allow them to get too far out, and focus in on your invoice. That's really important. So I hope this tip has been helpful, and I wish you the best in your collections.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.